Hi, I'm David Morris. I'm in Shandong province in China, and as I walk around the streets, it's amazing how many little children or young people point at me and go, "Wai guo ren?" Or "Sure, wai guo ren?" I'm a foreigner in China. But you know, it's such a change from China a few years ago, just a few years ago, before COVID, before all of the geopolitical tension, before a lot of foreign companies actually moved out of China. You used to see foreigners everywhere. These days, pretty rare to see. I found one other foreigner in the whole city of Jinan in the time that I've been here. So this makes me worry a little bit about cultural understanding, because if we are spending less time with each other between East and West, we're going to understand each other less. Now, I've spent chunks of my life in the United States, in Europe, in Asia, as well as, of course, in my home country of Australia. I know that cultural differences are there. They're to be celebrated. They also lead to cultural misunderstandings all over the world. So China's not unique. But I have a tip about China. In China, if you're an English-speaking person like me, remember that yes doesn't necessarily mean yes. If you are communicating, talking with, or negotiating with, or studying with a Chinese friend or a Chinese business partner, it's really worth remembering. It's really hard for those of us in the English language to remember this lesson. I keep learning this lesson after 25 years of coming to China. Yes doesn't mean yes. So I'm ordering a cold beer. I go into a restaurant and I really want a cold beer before I start my delicious Chinese meal. So I ask the waitress, could I please have a cold beer? I even attempted in my bad Chinese, but don't succeed in that. In the English language, I'm really clear, I think. Could I have a cold beer before the food arrives, please? I even asked my friend I'm having dinner with, could you just explain that for me in Chinese? So what happens? The hot tea arrives. Now, I'm not a tea drinker. I absolutely respect those who are, but for me, I need a cold beer. The hot tea is sitting there. The Chinese host thinks that they've looked after me very well because the tea has arrived. I've got the traditional warm welcome, which is very common in China, that you're looked after. There's lots of friendliness. There's lots of food arriving. I still haven't got my cold beer, so I ask again, could I please have a cold beer? Yes, yes. Doesn't arrive. The courses keep coming. So here's my lesson. Don't expect that the yes means yes. Make sure that somebody has asked in Chinese and that it's been acknowledged and that you are clear that actually your request has been heard. Because it's a language difference. It's a language difference first and foremost. That the person waitressing or waitering in the restaurant probably doesn't speak English. That's perfectly normal. And then when a person asks for something that culturally just doesn't fit with the culture, also that's quite normal that it's kind of ignored. And it's not until you make a bit of a fuss that you get your cold beer. And you don't want to be the annoying foreigner. You just want your cold beer, right? Well, it gets more serious when you're negotiating in business. When you're actually having business meetings and you're asking, you know, do you agree with this proposal that I'm making? And your business colleague says yes. And then you say, well, should we write this up in a memorandum or in a contract? And your friend says, yes, we should. It doesn't mean yes. Don't just listen out for the word yes. My tip is that you really have to keep the conversation going in China. In Chinese culture, it's all about the relationships. It's all about the indirect way of getting from one step to the next step. It's not jumping straight to a result, but it's rather following what might, to a Westerner sometimes, seem a rather tortuous road, but it requires respect on both sides, understanding on both sides. The word yes is absolutely irrelevant. What you need to hear back if you're negotiating with a Chinese partner is you need to hear the same ideas that you're wanting expressed back to you in their language. If you're both talking about the same kinds of things, then you're probably aligned. But if you're just hearing the word yes, probably means no.